Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. I wanted to look at Wave Accounting and talk about recording expenses. Now I have a full video that's over 20 minutes about Wave Accounting and how to use it, but I thought I would make a video that just covers expenses only, and that way this could be a shorter video if that's all you need to know how to do. Now, first, I want to point out that you can connect your bank account or credit card account in Wave Accounting. This makes life a lot easier because you would log into your bank account one time, and then after that, those transactions would come into Wave Accounting automatically, and it makes it easier because then all you have to do is edit the category and maybe put in some additional details. But for the most part, the transactions come in with the details already in there. It comes in with the amount, the date, and stuff like that. It comes in with a description, and you just have to change this category. So it does make life easier, and I wanted to point that out, that it is something that I recommend trying. I don't have any accounts connected in this sample company, so I wanted to show you what was in here already and then maybe go through a few transactions with you. Now, you can see that I went to the transactions page and it defaults to all accounts. I actually recommend that you just click on whichever account you're trying to enter transactions for. It does make it a little easier because what I like to do is have this on one screen, and then on the other screen I would have my statement, and I would put the transactions in while following along with my bank statement or credit card statement. Or you could print the statement if you don't have two monitors and have a printout and add transactions from that. But either way, like I said, it is easier to do the connection and do it that way. If not, you would just add your expenses manually. And before I enter any expenses, I want to go to the chart of accounts. You can see that I already have some expense categories in here. These expense categories, most of them anyway, were already in here. Wave Accounting has these default accounts and also a description to give you an idea of how you would use that account or what types of transactions you would use this account for. So that's really helpful. And then you can add accounts here. You would just need to make sure you put it in the correct category. And the descriptions are pretty self-explanatory. I did add a few accounts. I added continuing education. I added contractors, which is a little different than professional fees. Professional fees would be things like accountants, consultants, coaches, lawyers, things like that. Whereas contractors would be more like a subcontractor who you hire to do some work. And some of the other accounts I use, advertising and promotion, that's pretty obvious. That would be any fees associated with any advertising, any ads, Facebook ads, other online ads. A lot of times I put my web hosting in here, although I think Wave Accounting has its own web hosting account. Yeah, hosting. This is for web storage and access. So it actually has its own account for that, whereas I don't think QuickBooks does. Bank service charges, these are just your bank fees, processing fees, things like that. Computer software, that would be another expense account I would probably use pretty often. Dues and subscriptions, that would be something I'd probably use. Now it had insurance vehicles, so I did add insurance general for just general business insurance. Or you could just edit the vehicles one if you wanted to, if you just wanted everything in one insurance account. That's up to you. Meals and entertainment would be any food and beverages you pay for while conducting business or traveling. Reimbursable expenses, those are expenses paid on behalf of the customer. I do have another video specifically about that I can link in the description. Office supplies, that's probably a pretty common one that I use. So you can see that it's pretty detailed here. There are a lot of accounts, and this probably covers a pretty good amount of your expenses. So I'm just going to go back to the transactions page, and you can see that I added some expenses. Now this, like I said, I think I said earlier, it does default to all accounts, and I just specifically want to look at the credit card today. You can see that I have some expenses already in here, like Amazon. I put those under office supplies. eBay, I put those under office supplies. Walmart, I put those in office supplies, or that expense in office supplies. Starbucks, that was meals and entertainment. Now Prime Video, that is probably a personal expense. It looks like a personal expense, so I just put that under drawings. That's an equity account because I don't want to categorize this as a business expense since it is a personal expense. Now, most of the time I recommend you do not put business expenses on personal cards and do not put personal expenses on business cards. But if you're just starting out, you may have to put your business expenses on your personal credit card. There just may not be a way around that if you don't have a business credit card set up or a business bank account set up. So it does happen, but hopefully at some point you will have a separate bank account or even just a separate credit card account for your business. Okay, and then there's more office supplies. Now this is a payment that I put in on the checking account. I put it in the checking account and then it automatically also created a payment on the payment here as well. So it came out of checking to pay the credit card. So just be careful that you don't do duplicates. If you already entered it on the checking account side, you would not want to enter it again on the credit card side. Okay, and then they had an expense for a CPA firm, which I put under professional fees, another meal, and I didn't put the vendor name. I just put lunch with clients as the description, which is fine. There was an Uber, which I put under travel. Now I want to point out that vehicle expenses, you have to be careful because if you are using your personal vehicle for your business, you obviously want to deduct any related expenses, but the IRS is not going to let you deduct your actual car expenses like your gas and your car payment and your insurance and things like that and deduct mileage. You have to pick either or. So just keep that in mind when you are recording automobile expenses, that you can't double dip. And that would be, I don't practice tax accounting, I just do bookkeeping. So that would be something to discuss with your accountant who files your tax return if you are not sure. But for an Uber, that's something completely different. That's paying someone else to drive you somewhere. That's like, that's obviously going to be an expense of the business. And then Upwork, I put that under contractors, and then there was another meal. Now I want to point out that you can edit these transactions or you can put more details in. You can put notes, you can add a receipt. So there is, and you can also add a vendor. Now, one thing that I don't like about Wave Accounting is if I want to add a new vendor here it takes me to a whole nother screen, and then I have to add the vendor. And then I go back here and it's not here yet because I have to refresh the page since I created the vendor on another screen altogether or another tab. Now I can probably go in and choose my vendor. There it is. So it feels like it's extra steps because in QuickBooks I just add the vendor and I can put it in the expense right there. I don't have to go to another tab. But this is a free software, so if you're looking for something free, it's probably worth the extra steps to do something like that. So I just wanted to point that out. ABC Law, I'm assuming that was a lawyer. I put that under professional fees. And then ABC CE, I put that under continuing education. And then there was an expense I wasn't sure about. It was PayPal, so I just left it uncategorized. And that's usually how I would do a normal bookkeeping client. If there was something I wasn't sure about, I'd put it under uncategorized expense and then later ask what it was for. So as you can see, I already added several expenses here. I'm going to add another expense so you can see the process. So I would choose add expense. I would change the date. I would make sure it was coming from the correct account. You can see that when I refreshed, it must have went back to all accounts. So now I'm not specifically in the credit card anymore. So I want to make sure that is correct. I would put a description. Let's just say I do my ADP. This company does ADP in another software and they are paying for the, I don't know, the software fees. It probably wouldn't come out of the credit card, but this is just for an example. Okay, so I would put my description, I would put the amount, put the account, put that it's a withdrawal, not a deposit, and put the category according to whatever makes sense to me, whatever seems like it fits the most. And I could put notes, additional notes in here if I wanted to, and I could add a receipt if I wanted to. But I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm not going to add anything here. And I'm not going to add a vendor. I'm just going to save. And that's it. It's as easy as that. Let's add one more. So let's say I'm adding a rent expense. Now keep in mind, if I wanted to add a category, I could also add that here down at the very bottom of this scroll down menu. And then I'm not going to add anything else. I also want to point out that you can split the transaction. Some people have to also pay something like postage or office supplies when they pay their rent. Sometimes it's a bundle of some sort. So I'm just going to add that here. Now I don't seem to have a postage expense. Maybe I have delivery, shipping, maybe. Nope. So I actually need to add postage. So I'm going to add a new category. This is an operating expense. And I'm just going to save that. So that did go ahead and add that here. So now I have a split transaction. I need to go back up. It's telling me that it's wrong because my split amount, because I added this $50, now it's more than my total up here. So I need to fix that, and then I also need to make sure it's the correct account up here. Actually, I'm just going to change this to 350. Okay, so that's all you have to do to split a transaction. So I'm going to save that, and that's it. So I hope this helps. I hope this gives you an idea of how to enter expenses, how to add expenses, how to add vendors. If you have any questions, feel free to comment below, and thank you for watching.